Hey guys, trying something out here. Trying StreamYard just because I want to have a guest on, and I've never done this before with StreamYard. So I want to see if it actually works. That would be good. So let me just get in here and see if I can see the live. There it is. That's awesome. If I can hear myself okay. Sounds okay. All right. So I'm just waiting for my guest to arrive that I've invited. That's Mr. Matt Deckard. Should be coming along any minute now. So fingers crossed that this works. It's first time trying StreamYards like this. So YouTube actually notified you today. Hey, FleetPod, that's awesome. No, that's good. We'll see if I actually get Mr. Okay, it says he's backstage. All right, so how do I do this now? More. How do I bring him up? Let's see. I'm not quite sure how to get backstage to let you in there, Matt. Oh, guess. There we go. Click you, add to stream.
Hello.
There we go. How you doing, Matt?
Doing well, doing well. It's a bit hot out here these days, but not too many problems. Just reeling from the idea of a new Trek show coming out, and we'll see how that goes.
Yeah,
I'm
absolutely.
I'm actually, this is the one where I'm kind of happy about it. There's so many people naysaying, but I really am looking forward to this because it's not, I don't feel like it's going to really be in the canon classic universe that we love, but it's going to be, it's coming from that universe that we love. It may not be part of canon just because it may be too comedic for us to like. So
yeah,
we'll
but
see.
that being said, it looks the most canon from any of the new Trek we've got. So,
well, the fact that they showed a starbase that looks like that's the starbase. That's a classic starbase, no questions asked. It's verbatim. It's like they scanned it in and animated it. So what are you up to? How's your life? What's all the stuff behind you? I don't know if you've had any, good interviews. There's a lot of people that know Trek. I haven't seen a lot of people on here that know Trek in ways like I know Trek, like, going through all the books like Mr. Scott's Guide or having probably scanned the encyclopedia crazily. But I don't know, what crazy items do you have that you think we haven't seen that may be Trek related, non-Trek related? What's the offhand TV show that you might like that many other people may not know? Any odd ones? Like My Secret Identity. You mentioned that a couple days ago.
Yeah.
And I remember when that first aired, and I was kind of upset because I don't even think it lasted it went a season. I don't think it went past that. And I don't think it was very, maybe it's a very Canadian show, but what did you think about My Secret Identity?
Well, I wouldn't say I watched all of it. I watched a lot of it. But it was one of those things where when it came out, I had other things to do. And of course it's on network TV. So you got to catch it when you can catch it. So I did miss a lot of it. But it was something that was really interesting to me. I like the Doctor, and of course Jerry O'Connell as the main actor. It was really cool. He's in Lower Decks too. So
and when I say he was the fat kid from Stand By Me, that's how he goes by sometimes, because in the movie Stand By Me, there's this one heavyset kid that's always made fun of. And after that movie, the next time I saw him was in My Secret Identity, and I don't think anybody else recognized him. And I thought, that's the kid from Stand By Me. And
yeah.
And then he got really built, and now he does things like Piranha.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
No, I don't know. There's so many old shows that, like, Greatest American Hero, Fall Guy, stuff that not a lot of people talk about really.
Mhm.
There's the standouts, of course, Magnum PI and Knight Rider and stuff like that. But there's
Yeah.
a lot of stuff that I haven't seen all of them, but I'm a fan of. It's got the nostalgia feel to it. So
I get a feeling like we're drowning in shows right now. There's just so much stuff to watch, and so much of it is actually good, not just bad things. Like, I mean, people can go back and watch Farscape all the way through, or watch Battlestar Galactica. There's new stuff coming out as well, but we're living in it's the post golden age. I remember the 80s was fantastic, but we're at a time now where people who couldn't get near this world are making the toys and making the shows.
yeah.
And when that gets, like Star Trek, it's a franchise that's been around for a long time, but when that kind of maybe gets taken away from the people that really love it, it's upsetting. But there's still a world out there of so many things that are the things that were imagined. The idea of the shows are being fleshed out even better than they could have been in the 80s or 70s.
Oh, for sure. And before we go on with that, though, I'm just going to introduce everybody to you. This is Matt Deckard, everyone.
Oh. Hello.
Tell them a little about yourself, what you've done, so they know who you are.
I guess I'm more into the vintage clothing scene. I've always watched science fiction shows since I was a child. My mother would go to the local video store and rent the worst things available. And I grew up watching things like Cherry 2000, not a porno, but it's a science fiction movie from the early 80s. But when I was a kid, my mom would just rent the worst movies, Puppet Master, all the Full Moon movies, and I'd watch those as a kid and just think, why is she getting these? Why can't we just get the blockbuster one? I'm guessing it was cheap. But my parents were big Star Trek fans, and I grew up in a world where my father, when he was stationed in Germany in the Air Force, always told the story about how he bought a TV just so he could watch Star Trek when he was stationed overseas. So I just my whole heritage has just been loving science fiction. I was never really into Star Trek until, oddly enough, I saw Star Trek: The Motion Picture. And as you're a person that's on the technical side, I wasn't in it for the story. I loved the ship. I loved the corridors. I loved the technology. And then I thought, okay, I've got to watch Star Trek when I was a kid. And then I'd watch it and think, what is this garbage? I really wasn't. I was offended by the look of the original Enterprise. I didn't like the cylinders and the saucer. It just looked sort of comical compared to what the motion picture brought, which was literally it was about 20 years later. But to see how technology had moved to a point where they had NASA engineers giving them input on how to design that ship, so it looks like a space vehicle. So that's but background wise, I design clothing. I've designed hats for various movies. I was on a panel at Comic-Con last year for doing the hats for Agent Carter, and I just love clothes. I'm an oddball guy that's kind of pear-shaped, so I started designing my own suits just because I liked wearing suits, and that's pretty much my background. I write about clothes and hats and love science fiction.
Well, I know you got quite a hat collection. I'm kind of jealous a little bit. You got some cool stuff. So.
Well, you look like you got a bit of looks like a round or oval head. So, what is your hat size, by the way? Because
I have no idea.
And that's the other thing. I got too many hats to the point where Stetson. I was beating on the door, telling them this is what your competition is doing. Then they flew me out there and hired me as their creative director for about 5 years, and I revamped the whole line for the 150th anniversary of Stetson.
That's
and
awesome.
Mostly all the dress hats there now, and much of the Western styles I've done. So
very cool. Very cool.
it was very fun. But outside of that,
is that a fedora? Is that like Indiana
this
Jones?
This is a fedora. This one's from the 50s. This one's actually made by Brooks Brothers. Like I said, I collect hats. And something you rarely see in TV shows and movies is, they always try to hide the liners because they don't want any logos in shows.
Yeah.
You don't get to see, what anybody's wearing. That's just an old one from Brooks Brothers, probably a rabbit felt. And, with hats too, you can get personality from them. You can shape it into whatever you want.
Yeah.
Indiana Jones had that very tight Michael Jackson nose pinch in the front. Kind of his signature. Man. But they're very durable. I think people just don't know what they're made of but it's not leather. It's actually hair that's matted together and then sanded down into a layer like this, because hair itself, going to a little diatribe here. If you grab a hair of your head and you slide it up, it slides. But if you go the opposite direction, it grabs.
Yeah.
Have you ever noticed that? Okay, it grabs because there's all these sort of scales going all up and down that strand of hair. And when you add moisture and heat, those scales kind of open up. And what this is just hairs matted together with all those scales grabbing each other. Again, this looks kind of wonky because it's just freshly squished by me. But what we do to make the hat is there's a metal cone that's rotating. They have a vacuum underneath it. All these hairs are sucked onto that, creating a layer of fur. And then that's pulled out, stuck through hot water, cold water. So it does what's called crabbing, where it just grabs and tightens itself together to create a bit of a nickel-sized layer of fur. And then they sand it smooth.
I did not know any of that, so that's awesome.
Yeah. And then they pull it over a block that gives it more of a squared off shape in a way. Just takes the cone shape out of it. And that's how you get this hat shape. They press this out, sand that down, and you get a classic hat shape. So that's cool. Yeah, that's my quick way to tell. I used to give a tour at the factory all the time and show them the machinery, but it's beautiful. And then, it's going to work like this. People think, if it's a beaver hat, it should shed the rain. But quite frankly, if it gets wet in any way, it'll always be like a sponge. The tell of a good hat is, even if it's wet, dark from water, will it not droop that much over time? Can you just wear it the next day and will it look kind of the same?
Well, Indiana Jones' hat got wet all the time, and it always looked great. So,
well, yeah, that one was made by Herbert Johnson, and actually we made some from Stetson too for the second movie. But yeah, his hat looks fantabulous.
That's cool. I got to get one of those. That's what I'm looking for sure.
Well, we got to measure you out. I think there's a couple good brands we can talk to you about soon enough,
awesome.
And or I can come up to Canada and we'll fit you.
That's what you got to do, because I'd like to see it. That'd be cool.
Yeah. We can have cocktails and cigars.
Absolutely.
So tell me something. What's going on? They're not here to see me. They're here to see you.
That's true. I just want to address one of these comments here. Dystopian guy, Cap, Royal Mail UK is doing Sherlock Holmes collector stamps due to release next month or so. That's awesome, and I need some. So
yes, you do.
If you're in the UK, let me know, and I will send you money, do whatever I need to do, because I need to get those.
Quite frankly,
I'm a huge Sherlock Holmes fan. This is all Sherlock Holmes stuff.
Well, I've got to go because I also write for a magazine called The Chap, which is, if anybody's out there and you look up the Chap Olympiad or Chap magazine, I write for The Chap. It's a publication that used to be strictly UK. It's guys that dress up, smoke cigars, wear hats. It's fun. Less on the sci-fi realm, more on the, I guess, fantasy and dress up. It's clothing, and I like tweed, but and it's pretty hot to wear it right now. But yeah, I might go to London. They have an event called the Chap Olympiad, and at the Chap Olympiad, it's guys jousting on bicycles with umbrellas and how far you can carry your, lady without dropping your drink, sort of events. And I think it's postponed this year because of that thing going around. But I'll have to be there next year. But certainly we should. I don't know. I can probably get some stamps sent out.
Cool.
Yeah, but you're the Canadian. Shouldn't you be getting? You should have better access than me. I'm in the U.S.
What, to the UK? Not really. It's the same as you guys. Just because we used to be, we're not really attached to them anymore. Even though the Queen's still on our money. It's one of those things.
I understand.
Fleet Paw Swiftback puts in $2. Haberdashery is awesome. Didn't know that. So there you go.
And also, a lot of people think haberdashery means hats. Haberdashery is menswear in general.
Oh, see, I didn't know that either.
So when you say I used to, when I was taking flights, actually last time I went to Canada, I was in Toronto for about 3 months back in 2012. And I flew out there and I had haberdasher written when they asked for occupation. and the guy was just flabbergasted. What's a haberdasher? So I rambled a bit.
So if it's so warm in LA, why are you wearing a jacket?
It looks cool.
It does look cool.
I've got the air conditioner on. I've gotten a bit big for my pants with my suspenders to put on, and that looks cool too. But I've got to start running off some weight because my nice pants that I can fit suspenders on are a bit too tight to be wearing right now. I've gained the virus 16, I guess, so I got to start running.
I can relate to that. I've gained some weight too. So, Scott,
what is the shirt you have on? Oh, go ahead, read them.
He just says, "Can you reintroduce the guests for us latecomers?" No, you can go back and watch it later.
Yes, I'm his son.
Yes, long lost son. No, I didn't think we were going to be doing a live tonight because I've had shitty internet all day. It's been dropping out, very intermittent, and it's actually the whole neighborhood. So then I decided, well, I'll try with the phone. Tried something, and then of course got Streamlabs to work through this. So that's actually awesome. So I'm just kind of wearing my lounge around the house outfit. So my Adventures of Captain Proton shirt.
Well, we're not at work. I think
I am kind of.
Well, I guess you are. You are at work. You're collecting. You're collecting. Hello, everyone. Send him some. What is it called? Pay to play.
Super chats.
Super chats.
If you can.
Does anyone have any hat questions, by the by, or suit questions or leather questions? This is a Levi's vintage. They reproduced it for, I guess they're they have a whole section of Levi's that's gone into remaking classic leather, classic jeans. And they look pretty good. This is a nice Italian leather one. It's got a bit of a pointier collar. Buttons, it was originally 1930s style, and that was kind of pre-zipper, so any jackets back then would have been buttons. So they did a very good job with this. I'll do a breakdown of it later on in some other video.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, this is kind of just a test video. I didn't have anything planned for this.
No worries.
It might not be super long. Plus, I'm not really dressed for it. I want to be dressed.
Here's a question for you, even though it's not they're all the Trek people. What pipes do you have? Do you have? I saw 2 calabashes back in your shelf, and I think people don't exactly know what most pipes are made of. But is that a meerschaum?
Yeah, it's not real. This is just one of the Halloween props.
Okay, plastic.
Just for my Sherlock. I don't actually have any real pipes.
Okay.
I have maybe one, but it was one of my dad's old ones, and I'm not sure it's over there somewhere. But
yeah,
I don't actually have any pipes, so I need to get one of these though, a real one.
We'll have to fix that too. We've got to start doing our Sherlock streams and go into why. What's that movie I said again? It's the Holmes and Watson. It's not a bad movie. I just think it got a bad rap. I really think it got a bad rap.
I still haven't seen it yet. I can't bring myself to spend $15 to buy it.
But I don't know. There's other ways. I mean, you're with Trackyard. You can finagle. They'll send you something from the studio.
Oh, I'm sure.
Well, yeah. I'm in Hollywood. I mean, they send out what are they called? Review things. I can go to Goodwill and find boxes. Oddly enough, of people's reviewers from SAG members who just gave them to Goodwill.
Oh, nice.
And you put them in there. It's like, why is this person's name on it when you're watching it? It's not. I don't think they were thinking when they did these things.
No. Well, I used to work for Blockbuster, and we used to get screeners that would be like they fade from black and white to color, or they'd have really wonky stuff at the bottom, so you couldn't distribute it before the movie was released. So I'm familiar with the screeners, but
yeah. So what do you think about? I think Nickelodeon's getting a Star Trek cartoon series as well.
Yeah, Star Trek Prodigy. That's gonna. I don't know what to think about that one specifically because it's just been announced, even though we've kind of known for about a year that that's what it's going to be called. But it's aimed more for kids to get kids into Star Trek, and it's actually about a group of teenagers that find an abandoned starship and go on adventures with it. So I'm not quite sure how that's going to play out. I'm not looking forward to that one as much as I am Lower Deck.
It sounds more Sid and Marty Krofft style of Star Trek than anything.
Yeah.
If you don't know what that is, I mean, if some people, have you ever looked up? I've just watched Jason of Star Command, and I think there's something called Space Academy. You ever seen those shows?
No, I haven't.
They're really Saturday morning cartoon shows. Same people who did like Sigmund and the Sea Monster, and they did a show called Space Command. And you watch it, and it's like this is crazy. The effects aren't too bad, and it's about these teenagers that are part of Space Command, and they've got in it the guy who played the doctor from Lost in Space, and he's the head of this department. And then they did 2 seasons of that, and then they decided to do what's called Jason of Star Command, where it's like they used all the sets, all of the costumes, and just changed the whole format of the show about this hero guy Jason who's at that same base but in a hidden sector of it. And it's a kid's show, but it's worth watching. But then again, we live in a world where there's too much to watch unless you have like 4 or 5 TV screens, and you're watching it like
That's what I was going to start talking about before I got you to introduce yourself, was the fact that we don't have that shared viewership anymore, that shared history as far as shows go. Because back in the day, you had network TV. You had maybe 4 or 5 channels that you could get, and everything was allotted a certain time, a certain day. So everybody grew up watching the same stuff. Now with so many streaming services, you've got so many great shows, but you have to be subscribed to the streaming service or find another way to watch it. And not everybody's watching at the same time. Like there's a lot of shows I haven't seen yet, like The Expanse or whatever, that I need to get into, that, people are telling me to watch. And it's weird because this generation is going to grow up with a totally different mindset in regards to entertainment.
Yeah, we're the first generation that's post live TV. We are. I remember you can go to back when I was in high school. I'd go back home or go to school, and even if you weren't into sci-fi, everybody was watching V.
Yeah.
When V came out, and they just, you'd come back the next day and discuss it with your buddies at school, and it would just be. It was common culture, and it's very weird. I don't know how kids will, the next 3 generations are perceiving science fiction outside of they've grown up without it like we know it. They, it's, and also the media has changed to the point where you can just binge watch the shows all at once, like Stranger Things. You binge watch it, it's done. You may run into somebody who hasn't seen it yet. They'll have to binge watch it later. It's just not the same thing.
That's one of the problems with binge watching too, is a lot of the episodes tend to bleed together. So there's no definition. Like we had to wait a week, and now if you binge watch, you forget which episode, what happens in a lot of the times. At least I find I do.
Well, you have to sit there back in the day too, and you can't miss a thing. You'd sit through it, watch it, commercial would come up, you come back, and you'd be locked in. Nowadays,
you have a phone in your hand.
Yeah,
I find myself on my phone a little too often when I shouldn't be.
You're just missing half of it, and then you're watching, what's this about? And then you have to go back and find out what happened.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. But yeah, there are a lot of great shows to watch, and there's a lot I need to catch up on. But like I said, I just started watching SG1. So
here's a question. I don't know if anybody's asked you this, probably have, but what was the first, if you can remember it? I mean, I told my parents were really into Star Trek. I think Star Trek the Motion Picture, they rented that on video, and I just didn't care. And then I had to hunt that down. It was a TV show before. My mom was really, even my mom was always impressed that they brought back the same actress to play the priestess in Star Trek 3. And I was just like flabbergasted thinking, what? How do you know that? That's like 30 years ago or 20 years ago. What first interested you about Star Trek, or was Star Trek your first science fiction love?
See, a lot of people have asked me that question, and I don't remember my first Star Trek experience because I grew up with Star Trek. I was born in '74, and my brothers, I had 2 older brothers, and they were both into Star Trek. So it's just always been a part of my life. I can't remember for the life of me. Yeah, I can't remember for the life of me what the first one would have been.
Well, if you can't remember, then all that Star Trek, that Trek Yards was, all that Trek Yards could have been, is lost.
I guess.
So kind of osmosis, you're saying?
Absolutely. And I can't even think of my first memory. I think one of my first memories of Star Trek would be my oldest brother, Steve, had in his room, he had a mural on the wall that they hired a a local artist to come in and do it. Had the Enterprise, it had the Romulan TOS bird of prey, the Klingon D7, a nice planetscape along the bottom, and a moon and things like that, all painted on the wall. It was this huge mural, and unfortunately, we can't find a picture of it anywhere. Yeah, and it's a shame because it was such a cool. It was so well done. But that's like my first thing that I kind of remember.
Well, I
about
think
Star Trek.
a lot of the stuff about Star Trek too is in the. I think a lot of the cool stuff was made in the 70s. All these coloring books or these paint by number things that they used to make. That you can make your paper Enterprise that just came out of nowhere when the first movie came out, and I don't know, it was a world where I guess they didn't come out with a good toy line. That was the biggest problem with Star Trek from when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Although I didn't want any figures. I always wanted the starships. I always liked making Lego versions of starships for weird reasons. I'd find the satellite dish and make my own Enterprise, and I make my own Excelsior. And yeah. But I am curious though about FASA. And did you ever play the tabletop FASA game that they put out? Or
I never played FASA because FASA was a role-playing game and then had the combat simulator attached to it. I never played the combat simulator when I was a kid. When I got a little older, like early teens, my brother and I started playing Starfleet Battles, and we've been playing Starfleet Battles on and off for years. We still do if we find the time. FASA though, I had like the books. I saw them in like the Star Trek, the official fan club magazine, all the ships on the back page. And I was really into that. Like I loved ships. And so I never played the game, but I knew a lot about the ships, and I would have the manuals and stuff. So I like the recognition manuals. So
I think that was the thing that I was most addicted to. It wasn't about the game to me. My brother, my second oldest brother, James, was very into the BattleTech and Car Wars and that other things that FASA was putting out. But when I'd go to the game stores, I'd be like, "There's a Star Trek game," and I was there with my mother, and I'd have to buy the books even though I wasn't playing the games. And I think there was this disconnect of why I wanted them, because I'm not playing, but I wanted it because it would break down the ships, and then I'd buy the little figurines of the ships, and it was insane because like there's so much more to this universe that was created through FASA that I think has been kind of annihilated. Maybe it's I'd like to see some interviews of those guys that actually put that together or did the artwork for those books, because somebody had to create those ships, somebody had to create the just the information on the weapons, or you have to create a fleet. And that was what FASA did. It fleshed out Starfleet, it fleshed out the whole Klingon fleet, it fleshed out the Romulans, gave them a background that this is beautiful. And it worked with the movie era. It worked. You could think it through and just play with it and think this all works. And I just love collecting those models, regardless of the 2 engines you need nowadays. But the Lochnar and some of those other ships it just worked for me. But that if we could, or you could get a hold of anybody that really worked at FASA during that era, I would love to hear from them on what they were thinking and why they came up with this. And because those books, there's a genuine heartfelt love for Trek, going through the decks, going through just all of the engineering that would have to go into each ship to make that work. So.
That's a fantastic idea, and we should reach out to a few people. We have had people that worked on Starfleet Battles on our show. A friend of mine, Josh Spencer, who passed away a few years ago, he's been on Trek Yards because he created the Interstellar Concordium race for Starfleet Battles. Okay. And he also created the D5 SSD for the Klingon D5. So he was pretty involved with Starfleet Battles back in the day and the Amarillo Design Bureau. So there is that kind of content on Trek Yards, but I would like to track down some of the FASA people. I think that's a good idea. And I think a lot of people would definitely be interested in that. And see, FASA and Starfleet, and I tell people this all the time, FASA and Starfleet Battles were our Bibles. That's what filled in those missing years between the movies and before TNG came out. And then Enterprise came out and shit all over that canon. And that's one of the reasons I wasn't a big fan of Enterprise.
Well, I don't know why they need to go back and let's rewrite some history, because I don't need, you're not filling in a hole. You're recreating something that we already had down in our heads that somebody else had already written. And that concept, even with and I'll say, with Discovery, let's go back in the past and rewrite history. And then they're like, oh, but we're too tied down, so they have to go all the way to the future now to say we're starting from scratch. And I think that was a tweet I saw today about they released the date for season 3 of Discovery, and
October 15th.
Yeah, and within the tweet, though, he says they're in essence, we're free now from the tethers of the past. And it's just, well, are you saying you're free from Star Trek itself, or are you free from these? I'm not sure what they're saying. I'm not really sure. I think it's I think there's a generational thing where they just don't want to be. They want to create their own thing, but they have this property to work from. It's odd. It's very odd how it's been worded.
Yeah, I think they're saying they're free from the fans complaining that nothing looks like it's supposed to, and they're messing up canon. I think that's probably what they're saying.
Yeah, which is it's just
with 900 years in the future, they can do anything pretty much. So
yeah, which is it's disappointing. Maybe they'll run into Kevin Sorbo and
That's what I think it's going to be. I think season 3 is going to be very similar to Andromeda as far as the Federation isn't quite a thing anymore.
Yeah.
And they need to kind of save the day. That's kind of what the feeling I get. It's going to be season 3. So.
Yeah. Which again, did you ever play Klingon Academy?
I did. I played Starfleet Academy more. I didn't get Klingon Academy till years later, but a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, I think one of the best, as we'll go back to the other thing, but I think one of the best, what I really loved about Klingon Academy is that it was a true 3-dimensional world. It didn't matter what axis you were on. You didn't have to level up with any ships. You'd be coming from all angles. That's the one thing I really love, as I'm sitting here drinking a bit. But just wanted to interject that. But you also play Starfleet, what's it called? Bridge Crew, yeah. Which I'm going to get the headset and the handhelds to play it properly. But tell me what, I think we both had been watching the guy who does the robot voice, his videos, which are fantastic, because he'll go in there and tell people that he is the AI person. And like, okay, we'll just go along with you. Thank you. Come along with, Did you say this? But tell me about some of your Bridge Crew experience. I know you do a channel where you want to play it now and again and have people watch. I do need to join your crew, I guess, or just to play. But tell us more about what you think of Bridge Crew, and that's one of the best Star Trek games I've ever seen in my life. It's about time, and it's kind of a better game than many other games out there for some reason. But is that under talked about? You talk.
It is under talked about, and it's a shame because when I first heard about it, I thought that's great. It's going to be awesome. I didn't have VR at the time, so I was like, I'm not going to be able to play it. I bought it just to have it, and you can play it in 2D and you can play it with the regular controller, but it's very, very lackluster when you do that because it's very difficult to actually see the astrogator on the TOS Enterprise and stuff.
Yeah.
VR brings a whole new life to it, and I was lucky. My son Thomas, he got me the VR headset for Father's Day one year, and I was like, okay, I'm going to try out Bridge Crew again because I hadn't tried it for like a year after I threw it in initially, and it brings a whole new dimension to it, literally, especially with the wands. You got the hands, you can push things, and it's fantastic. And the game's good. It originally came out with 2 ships. There's a Kelvin-verse ship, the USS Aegis, and then there's the TOS Enterprise. And
the Jolly Rancher control panels and all.
Yeah. But they really wanted to, I think, push the Kelvin-verse thing because the Kelvin ship, the Aegis, is so easy to operate. It's silly a little bit because it's so easy. They make it so much easier. TOS is uber difficult, and it took us quite a while, me and the few people that I play with, to get, like, we're totally proficient now. We don't even need the tags up on the buttons. We can work all the buttons with no labels on them.
Well, just like Spock would have done.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So it's hard to learn, and a lot of people don't spend the time. They get too frustrated and just give up on it, and you really
Hmm.
shouldn't, because the TOS Enterprise is really fun to operate in that. And then they came out with the DLC, which is the next
Yeah.
generation. So you get the TNG Enterprise. So, and that's again a lot easier than the TOS Enterprise, but not quite as easy as the Kelvin. It's really
Right.
strange. And there's a lot of things I'd fix about it. You know, you don't have rear firing phaser arcs, which is really stupid on the
That's
Enterprise
weird.
D.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So I mean, it's a fantastic game. And they need more ships. They need more DLCs. They need a lot more
I think
functionality, I think.
maybe part of the problem too is just not. I don't know. It's not. I think. Do you think it would be more accepted if they'd gone with the CBS Discovery universe?
No.
No.
No. I'm hoping they're
Yeah.
working on a Bridge Crew 2 for the PS5,
Yeah.
because they could really do some fantastic stuff with that. So,
Hmm. Yeah. From what it looks like, all they have to do is drop in new bridge stuff. It doesn't look like it's too complicated. They already got the engine built for the world. Just drop in a few ships and drop in
yeah.
just new panels for a different situation. Change the uniforms. So, but it looks like a fun game. I'm addicted to it, but I don't have it yet, so I need to get it.
Yeah. It's a beautiful game, too. Like the exterior shots, a lot of times you're just like looking around and it's just like amazing. It's really well done. I just wish
Yeah.
that their last update kind of fucked things up, because it used to, when on the Enterprise D, when you used to get down to like 20% hull, the
Hmm.
bridge would go dark. You'd have your red alert going on, but then how the lights on the upper part of the TNG bridge are white.
Yeah.
When you got down to 20%, the bridge would go a little bit darker, and those would turn blue, and it looked beautiful. Like it was such a great look. Then they
Yeah.
did an update, and now whenever you get below 20% hull, the entire bridge goes white. You still got the blue lights, but you don't have the ambience, and it just looks
The
stupid.
beauty of like something's dark and menacing coming toward us, and we need to work
Yeah,
harder to make it go away.
it looks like you're in one of Q's fantasies, like you're in heaven.
That would be a good scenario if there's plenty of people playing at the time, have Q show up and just like take advantage. But,
Yeah.
So outside of that, what about your partner in crime? Is he ever going to be? Well, how did you mention this already? And I'm sure plenty of people have heard this one. But actually, I'll change the subject real quick. Has it been drinking, like you said? What's the worst question you've ever gotten while you're there, and that you've answered? That you thought, why is this? And that you thought, this is stupid, but I'll go into it anyway.
The worst question.
Yeah, or something just like, or it's something that comes up all the time. You're just like, why? Why is this always coming up?
It always comes up. What's my favorite starship? Makes sense. We're a ship channel. Fine.
It's too asked too much. Then you start thinking, I don't like that ship anymore. Like, I'm listening.
And you start realizing how big the universe is as far as ships go in Star Trek, and there's way too many. And I hate any question that what's your favorite? What's your favorite episode? What's your favorite this? Because honestly, it depends on the day sometimes.
Yeah.
Depends on my mood. And a lot of times you can't pick one. I challenge people to pick one above all others, because there's so much great stuff out there. So
yeah.
I mean, we had one podcaster early on when we were on a podcast. He says, like, last question, I can't believe I'm doing this. I'm such a schmuck. What's your favorite starship? Yeah.
It reminds you of the Stuart. What's his name? Who was in SNL, the fanboy guy. Remember that time in that episode when they had this happen, and you know what I'm talking about, where he's just like,
Yeah.
that's the fanboy question, and yeah, I'll answer it again. I can't believe you're going here. For God's sake, please don't.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I do. I've again, I think the one thing I like about the Disco universe is I don't like the stories. I don't like where it's going as much, but I love the ships. The ships look pretty damn cool. I like the new Enterprise. It's bigger than it should be. It's a different universe to my mind, but I do like the look of it. I can't imagine how they're trying to squeeze the Excelsior into being in the same universe as that now that they've connected it to Picard. So, yeah.
I love the ship designs in Discovery, a lot of them.
Mhm.
if they were post Nemesis, or if they had said from the beginning this is an alternate timeline.
Mhm.
But to say they're canon, nope, 100% not.
And
New
going,
Enterprise looks great. Don't get me wrong.
yeah,
It would have been that would have been perfect for the 2009 reboot. That would have been a perfect reboot at Enterprise.
yeah,
Instead of
and
that
along
fake.
that line too is why I don't understand why they can't just, the next generation had its own aesthetic and look, but they keep wanting to go, or have been with a lot of these shows, to the past, and I don't know if it's just to rewrite it to have their own personality to it. I mean, we know the past is supposed to be more or less technological than next gen, but they've been wanting to, let's go back, let's do Enterprise. I didn't understand when they did Enterprise. It threw me. And then when they did Enterprise, you'd think we'll deal with how we got artificial. The one thing that's more important than warp speed to me, artificial gravity. Just tell me about how we have artificial gravity. That's the one thing. Is like how that's bigger to me than warp drive. That's a technology that is, we can probably figure out how to make a bubble in space that pulls us forward, but how do we make gravity in space on decks that refuses to be connected to the gravity on the next deck, which could be reversed if we want it to be?
Yeah.
Nobody talks about that.
And
Yeah,
how is it no matter how damaged the ship gets, the gravity plating never fails? Life
except in
support will
Star Trek.
sometimes fail.
Yeah,
Life
Star
support,
Trek 6 is the only one that dealt with that, which I think it's because you had
yeah,
the best Star Trek director ever, which Nicholas Meyer, who is just, why didn't he direct all the movies?
the
So,
cool thing about him is he wasn't even a Star Trek fan. And he's actually written some of my. He's as you would know, he's a Sherlock Holmes fan.
yeah,
Wrote
he
the
did write.
7% Solution, and I love that two of my favorite things tie in together through him. And
Yeah.
yeah,
Did you ever see Time After Time?
yes, absolutely, yeah,
Yeah, that's when I just turned the editor of the Chap magazine onto, and he being in the UK, he'd never seen it, and he watched it. It's like, oh my god, this is amazing. I've never, and it's Nicholas Meyer actually talked them into doing. If you ever watch it's, I had the DVD of it. I don't know where it went, but it has them talking over it, and I think the lead's talking about his suit being made. It's cashmere, and he loved the tailor making it. But Nicholas Meyer is saying that they hadn't used that WB logo in a couple decades. They'd used the kind of oval with the black lines, look kind of like the V,
mhm.
logo. And he was the first person to bring back that shield that comes up with the WB fanfare. And the studio execs loved it so much that they used it every film after that.
Yeah.
But yeah, time after time, everything Nicholas Meyer has done has been pretty gold. The only odd thing I think is the score for Star Trek 2, where, as I ramble on again, if you've noticed, I forget whose name who did the score for Star Trek 2, and then you can watch Battle Beyond the Stars or Krull or six
Crow.
other movies he did, and it's like, this is almost the same score. It's like, it's which came first and which is using the bits from the other stuff. So
Yeah, they're very similar. All those music scores, absolutely. Olivia Julius though is here with $5. I'm here. Sorry, I'm late. No problem. And again, she throws in another $5 and says, Enterprise dealt with a scene where the deck plating went out.
yes, it's I'm trying to remember which. I do remember when they were playing with the gravity on the first episode where
The sweet spot.
yeah, the sweet spot where he grew up in space, and there's always a sweet spot on the ship.
Yeah.
Uh, they did. I don't remember when the deck plating went out, but I also remember them using deck plating and reprogramming it to capture the Gorn
In a
in
mirror
the
directly.
Mirror Darkly episode.
Yeah.
But yeah, which episode did they have the deck plating go out? Was that?
Honestly, I can't think right now what that would be. So Olivia, if you know, tell us. But yeah, I mean that was something that eventually became it was a running gag. It was a running joke that the deck plating or the gravity never went out. And then Star Trek 6 hit it, and then Enterprise did it. They started to address it. So yeah.
I've always been upset they never stuck with the Pepto-Bismol blood.
Well,
They should have just stuck with it. And I mean, actually, that's ignorance of, I think, the show, because they're like having the Klingons bleed, and it should have thought,
Yeah.
oh, Star Trek 6, it's supposed to be Pepto-Bismol.
Yeah. Olivia Julius, though, says the shower scene. Yeah, it was where Archer's in the shower. I remember that. Yeah.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
the beginning of the episode. That was because of the Expanse, though. It was causing problems with the ship.
You could drown very easily in a zero-gravity ship.
Yeah. As for the Pepto-Bismol blood, we had seen Klingon blood prior to that. The only reason it was pink for the movie was to get a lower rating, so it wasn't R-rated or whatever. And then, yeah, anytime after
Krug.
that in TNG,
Yeah, Krug had red blood.
Yeah, anytime in TNG with Worf or whatever, it was always red blood. And the only exception was in Discovery, the one where they go and kill the it's season 2, one of the first episodes. They kill a bunch of Klingons at the beginning, like the Klingon factions kill each other. There's actually 2 types of blood in that scene. One of the Klingons that gets slashed has pink blood, another one has red blood. So it's kind of like a genetic thing that some Klingons might have pink blood, which I kind of like. So kudos to Discovery for that.
And Fleet Paw Swiftback has a $4.99 for you for a Voyager's episode Prey. Had the gravity go out when 8472 took over deck 6, or whichever deck it took over. So,
okay. Yeah.
Voyager with its like little sacks of fluid.
Mm-hmm.
The technology in the future, it's insane. Actually, I wonder if Picard, that would have been something for the show on Picard. Did they go with the packs of fluid? Did that stick around, or is it
the gel packs? No, I don't think so. I'm not sure.
I think they used that in maybe 3 episodes and just really didn't focus on it too much.
Hold on one second. Just want to
go ahead.
Again, I'll be right back. I'm not even going that far.
Thank God. I thought he'd never leave me alone here. Well, let's look at this cushy chair he has. It's very much a captain's chair.
It's a captain's lounge chair.
It's a captain's lounge chair. You probably have if you have a pool, you have to get the captain's chair inflatable. Have you seen that?
Yes. My parents have a pool. I don't, but I would love that.
Yeah. So, are you living in the same city that you grew up in, or what world of Canada have you been through? I mean, I don't know if you've heard of Whistler, Canada. I think I mentioned it on a stream once, but I've been up there a few times. Also got to see the biggest mall in the world,
Vancouver,
in Canada.
Yeah. I'm actually living in London, Ontario, as you guys know. I grew up, though, about an hour from here. My parents lived in the country and was there my whole life, never moved. And we actually lived between 2 small little towns. One was named Shakespeare, one was named Tavistock. So, and we lived right in the middle. It's 6 kilometers from Tavistock to Shakespeare. We lived right at the 3 kilometer mark. So we had a Shakespeare address and a Tavistock phone number.
Wow.
But the nearest biggest city was Stratford, which is world renowned for the Stratford Festival Theater. There's 4 different theaters there that do, people come from around the world to see Shakespearean plays there. William Shatner played there, Christopher Plummer. So, I mean, I was 15 minutes away and I grew up in Stratford pretty much. I always had jobs in Stratford. And then eventually I just ended up meeting a girl and coming to London and kind of just stayed here. So that's that story.
So here's the question. Tell me about these what conventions have you been to in the past? Did you go to many Trek conventions up there, or is the Vegas one the big one that you've decided you like and go to? Because I've never been to Star Trek convention goer. I haven't been to one. I've been to big comic conventions. I'm spoiled. I'm in LA. We have they have this thing at the giant Masonic hall temple thingy where they used to hold the Oscars, and you go there and it's just this major convention hall, and they'd always have this comic book convention every month that you'd go to, and they'd have everything you could imagine there, like a giant flea market. And then you'd go and you'd see Schwarzenegger talking about his next movie on the main stage. And I never went to conventions, but tell me about your conventions that you've gone to and what do you love or dislike? And
well, growing up, we had Toronto is only an hour and a half from us. So there was always Toronto Treks every year. They were called Toronto Treks, and we'd go to those. Those stopped in the mid '90s. They
Yeah.
stopped doing those. They're actually going to restart it this year in November, but that's now been pushed
Mhm.
back till spring of next year. And I'm
Yeah.
actually invited to be a special guest, a VIP for that. So I'm really excited for
Okay.
that. But those are going to be yearly again. So I've been to that one. I've been to 2 Vegas, Star Trek Las Vegas conventions. The first one was with
Yeah.
Sylvia. We actually got married that year at the same time.
Congratulations, post marriage.
Well, thank you. um, and then went last year with Samuel. I've been to Starfest in Denver. I've now been over to Birmingham in the UK for the second largest Star Trek convention in the world, because the Vegas is the largest one.
Cool.
And I've been to 1 or 2 smaller ones like London Comic Con and stuff like that. But yeah, I haven't been to that many conventions, to be honest. We actually went to Denver, the Denver Comic Con. One of the first years we did Trek Yards, we were invited for that, and we did a few panels. We actually hosted a few, and that was fantastic. That was really busy for us, but it was really fantastic.
You have to do like an outline, or is it just question and answer? How do you do the panel hosting?
Well, for 2 of the panels, we were just emceeing and also recording it for them. But then we also had the Trek Yards panel, 2 of them. One was just talking about the web series and starships, so we just kind of, we had a format of basically a live Trek Yards episode. And we've done that before when we go to conventions like London Comic Con and stuff. We'll have Samuel Skype in, and we'll do a live episode, which people really like. And then there's a Q&A at the end. And the other one we did at Denver was, we've got Rick Sternbach, Sean Turinjo, Rob Bonchoon, and there's one other person. Anyway, so we got some designers together for a panel talking about designing starships for Star Trek. And we're actually the reason that they got invited. So, because we used our influence to get them there. So that was nice.
Well, you're Captain Foley. I mean,
I know, right?
someday you'll be a Commodore with these with what's going on now.
Well, here's hoping.
Well, you gotta put in for it though. You gotta actually send the paperwork in. I don't think there's anybody else out there that's.
Actually, I don't know if I want to be a Commodore. I like being a captain. So.
Yeah, I think it's interesting how when I was living in Dallas, Texas, they'd have like 3 different conventions. One was the Comic Con, then there was All-Con. I really loved All-Con because you show up and there's all the, ladies in their cosplay outfits and the guys in their cosplay outfits, and it was just an everything mashed together. I never went in the convention. I just hang out at the hotels and walk into the rooms and play Cards Against Humanity and stuff like that, because that's where the fun was.
Yeah.
Everything else, all the books I want, I kind of have. I don't, and I can roam around the floors and find stuff, but I really am not interested. But I loved hanging out with the people. And I'm thinking right now. What's well, have you gotten to travel from Trek Yards? Have you gotten to go overseas yet for this? You've hung out with Cockings. What?
Yeah, he first came over here. He came over twice, and then of course we did our Mission America, where we went on a 2-week trip. Essentially, we went down to LA, visited with Doug Drexler and Rick Sternbach. Then we flew to Denver, went to Denver Comic Con. Then we flew up to Montreal, where we met Rob Bonchoon, who was the visual effects editor for Voyager and Enterprise. And then from Montreal, we took a train to Ticonderoga, New York, and visited the sets, James Cawley's sets. So that was our Mission America tour. So we've had a lot of travel out of this. And yeah, in October of last year, I actually went to the UK for my first time going to the UK. So.
And is there anybody? I mean, I don't think you've had any people from the show on Trek Yards. It's not quite a Trek Yards thing to have a star from the show, although Shatner would be perfect. But if there were a pick, who would you like to have that's not a technical person? Maybe somebody who'd actually starred in the show. Is there anybody that you'd want to actually talk to about things?
Well, I mean, we've had Garrett Wang and a few people on. Like when we go to conventions, we actually do interviews and we post those interviews. We got a lot of interviews last year in Vegas. Samuel has visited Patrick Stewart at his house in the UK
Okay.
for an afternoon for actually a charity event.
Yeah.
But he did some Trek Yard stuff there as well, which hasn't been released yet. So, I mean, there's a lot of people we'd like to have on. One of the main ones we'd like to have on is actually Michael and Denise Okuda. We've met them a
Oh,
few
okay.
times, but they're
Yeah.
usually very, very busy with projects, so
Yeah.
they haven't come on the show yet. But yeah, as for actors, I mean, pretty much any of the actors I wouldn't mind seeing on our show. So
Okay. You should come to LA. Robert Picardo sings at Cicada Club, which is out here in LA pretty often.
well, that's cool.
It's a giant restaurant. They use it in a lot of movies. It always looks like some classic New York restaurant. If you ever saw Pretty Woman, where they're eating in the restaurant, that's the restaurant. The city literally can't divide it up to make it a shopping mall because it's a historic landmark. So it only can be a restaurant to make money. Whoever owns it, at the bottom of a major building out here. But you kind of get a lot of most of the Star Trek celebrities also hang out at the Magic Castle. Shout out to the Magic Castle. Got to be a member to go in. Check it out online. But Cicada Club, which is hosted by my friend Maxwell DeMille, literally Picardo goes and sings there on stage at least a couple times a year, and he has a table. But you should come out and check it out because it's pretty fun. It's pretty fun. When are you coming to LA? When are you coming this way? I can go to Canada, but when are you coming to Los Angeles?
Well, we were planning on going later this year, but that was early in the year when we were planning stuff.
Before the phage.
Yeah, for the phase, yeah. Like I said, we were there in 2017 or 18, and if I would have known you then, I would have come by and visited you. But
I have another good question. What's your worst convention experience?
Don't really have any. They've all been fantastic. It's funny because in the comments section, you always get the haters or the people that just, they're complete assholes, right?
Yeah, they're disgusted by everything, and yes.
Yeah, you never meet these people in real life. They never come confront you if they, there's just so many great.
Wait, so I'm also that's on that subject as I interrupt you as I always do.
Okay.
I do think it's odd and funny that I disliked the idea, and I still do, of discovery, and it's something that to me is not the heart of Trek. It's not Trek to me. It's just something outside the box. I can miss episodes, not really care about it. It's not quite Trek to me. It doesn't mean but you find your love for certain things, you watch it, and it's kind of your job now. It doesn't mean you're shilling. You watch it, you review it, you tell us what you think.
Yeah.
You're also telling us what you don't like. You've said what you don't like. The fact that they've cut and pasted a shuttlecraft that's apparently 150 years of this shuttlecraft. Seriously, guys, can we? How long does this last? And why is Picard taking a taxi? I guess he's, he didn't retire. He quits. He's got no pension. I'm not sure how Picard's life is now. He's got no. How does he get on base? But this whole system of it's so many years past Kirk. Shouldn't they be just transporting everywhere? I mean, you'd think the future, but they're taking yellow shuttlecraft that are the same design as the ones on Discovery from 100 years ago. It's ridiculous. So those are the things I have gripes with.
Yeah,
it's because we're the visual people. We love the ships. We love the shuttlecraft. We love the minutia. This broom handle phaser from season 1 that looked all sculpted, but also looked like a lady's pleasure toy. They changed that to be a little more squared off because I guess it just looked bad. I noticed that when I'm a kid. I'm noticing like how it changed, but I missed the previous one because of but this idea that you're shilling I see people write that, and I don't think there's a seriousness to it in some ways. I see they write it, but do your own videos and tell us what you feel. We've got people who hate it left and right. I posted my own video about how I didn't like Star Trek when Discovery came out because I felt like they lied to us.
Mhm.
But in the midst
Absolutely.
of it, it's you're not shills. You're just telling us what you think, and I see that, and it's very honest. But I don't see they coming out and saying you're shills. I really do appreciate and love Doomcock's work. I've seen him, and his videos are great. But um, I don't think he has a passion. He does the same as I do, and I drink to my passion. But I don't, I don't crap on other people for their passion. I
Yeah.
think but when it comes to it, he does point out things that are not done by passionate people sometimes, like the new Star Trek. I feel like they're grasping at things that are Trek and not really passionate about it, which when we have so many other sci-fi shows coming out, like, when Battlestar Galactica came out, those were people who loved Battlestar Galactica and molded it into something that would be fresh and new for this generation.
Mhm.
Even though
Yeah, I
that
think.
now is 20 years ago. But go on, yeah.
Yeah, I can't really watch Doomcock anymore. I mean, when he first started, I watched some of his stuff, but I've even talked to him a few times.
Mhm.
He's hit the nail on the head as far as being successful goes, so I give him credit for that.
Mhm.
But the unsubstantiated rumors and just the hate and the vitriol, it's just too much. I can't watch anymore.
It's
So
easier to build a crowd off of something that you're against than something you're for.
oh,
I
for sure.
feel.
Yeah.
And you look at Ethan Van Sciver and that whole. I think a lot of these people came to fame specifically because Last Jedi was a movie that people just had so much passion and energy to post about, and it was negative that a lot of these people had. They got a ground for building themselves, and I see that from Ethan Van Sciver. He was doing comics for years, or many of the other people. You've been doing this for years before that,
Hmm.
but I think that's been a stepping stone off of anger and hate, and they're talented, but it's a lot of times hard to talk about the stuff you really love. I'd love to see a good Doomcock, and I think it's Nerdrotic. Nerdrotic and Doomcock both love The Prisoner. I love The Prisoner. I love it when they talk about it. I watch them more right now when they talk about stuff like The Prisoner and
Hmm.
The Avengers than the hatred for the new Star Trek, because I'm kind of burned out on hating and
Hmm.
disliking what they've done with Trek. I like where they're going with the Star Trek, the new cartoon series that's coming out again. Uh, it escapes my mind, but yeah, it doesn't look terrible. It looks like it's going to be a comedy side version that may not be connected. I hope it can't be connected to the genuine canon, but at some point, I would like to see them do a show that is actual post next gen canon. I don't think they'll do that because they're just completely don't want to go that way. It would take another owner to do that. What do you think?
Uh, I agree. I think the Strange New World was announced, but that's just going to be reusing Discovery assets.
Hmm.
They're trying to change 50 years of history and say that their new look is the way it's supposed to be, which
Yeah,
annoys me because you got 50 years of history with TOS appearing in every other franchise, looking like it's supposed to look. It's a period piece, as Doug Drexler says.
right.
So I have no issue with them moving into after TNG and fucking with that.
Hmm.
Go right ahead. A
Yeah,
lot of people are going to complain because if they set it between TNG and Star Trek Online, then people are going to be like, well, we got the Star Trek Online canon's not
hmm,
going to match up and stupid shit like that. But I don't have a problem with that.
yeah,
If Discovery had gone through exactly as it did, ship designs, the Klingon look, all that, and had it set post Nemesis,
hmm,
it would have been like, you did a pretty good job. I don't understand the Klingons.
yeah,
Maybe it's some kind of mutation, but don't go back and tell me that's prime canon. That's just
yeah.
bullshit.
I think there's also something missing from Trek when it comes to what Roddenberry created was, Roddenberry, he'd been through World War II. He was a police officer. It was this the characters built in that were comrades. They were just like, we've been through stuff. We're hanging out on a ship. We're living life. But what I love about the original Star Trek is that the Enterprise wasn't special. It wasn't the flagship. It was just a ship of the line. It was just another ship out there, and Kirk was just another captain out there doing his job. We're going out there investigating planets. We're going out and spreading the word that we're the Federation, and we're not the ones protecting the border. We're not the ones doing that stuff. We're the explorers, and we're going out there. And everything after that, not just Star Trek, but like 90% of other shows that are trying to be repros of Star Trek. Like I mentioned this to somebody else earlier. Sequest, even Sequest, it's a special ship. It's a super ship, and it's got a special captain. It's got a special crew, and it's got the dolphin that talks. But I haven't seen a Star Trek show that is just a ship of the line, which is what I loved about the original Trek. It's even Enterprise is like, why do we have to call it Enterprise? Why couldn't that just be?
That was a stupid decision.
Yeah, why couldn't it be Star Trek Columbia? Why couldn't it be something that was praising past astronauts that may have lost their lives in line, or McAuliffe or something like that? But don't call it Enterprise. Stop making it all. Everything is special, and that's the problem I have with Trek right now. Everything is special, or sci-fi. Everything's got to be special when it's not just a ship of the line with general people out there carving out something for themselves. They are now super special. Everybody on the crew, everybody on the ship. And
yeah, I mean, Voyager was just another ship, though. I mean, yes, it was the fastest ship of the fleet at the time.
Well, but it wasn't just exploring; it was lost in space. I'm thinking about something like the original Trek, where it was just do another ship, Starship, chat, and just say that's out there exploring. And how long have we been on here? Go on.
I was just going to say we should probably call it quits soon because I didn't expect to go quite this long. This was kind of an experiment, but we will schedule more, obviously, to have better conversations. But
but
now that I know I can do this,
we'll figure it out, plan it out, but I think that was the one thing that I have a gripe with science fiction nowadays, where it's always about some sort of special occurrence, special thing, where the Enterprise was just, we're dropping in on this crew.
Well, that's what Lower Decks is doing. They're a nobody ship. They're not an important ship at all.
To me, that's the first time it's been done in a while, and that's the thing I think I'm going to like about Lower Decks. So I want to say, well, I guess thank you for having the conversation. Do you have anything more you want to go into, or you're?
No, I think I'm ready to wrap it up. I'm going to wrap it up, and just want to thank everybody for showing up and everybody that super chatted. Awesome, thank you guys. If you haven't hit like yet, hit the like button.
Hit the like, Captain Foley. We love you, and let's do more of these. I'll show off some pipes, but let's ramble more. So
yeah, absolutely. You're a great guy to talk to. Good conversation. I want to talk about Sherlock Holmes with you.
Let's go into depth on that. Let's go through the Sherlocks. I'll make a list of let's see what we like. Rathbone. I mean,
I could talk for that'd be a great stream. So
let's do that maybe next time. I've got to catch up on some of the episodes. I've been binge watching. What's your favorite one?
For Sherlock
Holmes. Yeah.
Oh, Jeremy Brett, hands down.
Okay. I think they did a special a few years ago with the person who played Watson, where he actually walks in with this table of people that are there talking about Sherlock Holmes, and he's just playing as though he's Watson for the heck of it. I'll send you a link to it. It was on PBS.
Yeah.
But it was like 20 years after they did the show, and he literally everybody's there having a talk about Sherlock Holmes at I think it's at the residence of the writer, and he literally is just there to be in character as they talk about the history of Holmes. So very nice talking to you, Stuart,
nice
and Captain. And I will take care, and let's talk soon.
All right. See you guys later. Have a good night, everybody.
Right. Take care, everybody. Thank you for hanging out, and good night.
Bye, guys.